Meanwhile, an Australian onboard the cruise ship Ovation of the Seas says the cruise company's told her she'll get a customer survey about the trip and a refund of about $135 for the extra day the ship had to stay in port after the volcanic eruption. 38 passengers from the cruise liner were on Whakaari White Island when it blew a week ago today. The death toll from the eruption stands at 16. Vanessa Lugo, who didn't take the volcano tour partly because she's asthmatic, says she's relieved the cruise is over and she is finally home.
We had just come back from the Rotorua Thermal Springs and we just got in. We were just settling down, getting ready for our afternoon back on the boat. And all of a sudden we heard, actually, my friend came into the room and he said there's been a volcano that's been erupted. And at the time I was kind of like, oh, look, volcanoes happen in New Zealand. It's quite normal. And then he's like, no, there was people from our ship that had gone to the island to walk around it. And I was horrified. And pretty much a couple of seconds later, we get an announcement into all of the rooms, and that's when you know something major's happened. And the captain, you could hear in his voice, he was quite upset. He was distressed about the information he was just about to provide us, saying that there was members of passengers as well as crew that are currently missing. Already one had been confirmed dead. And it was, at the time, you just stood in shock. You just couldn't believe what was actually happening. And then from there, we turned on the news and we saw everything, and it was crazy. It was like, surely this is not happening right now. Because we were saying that nothing's really happened in New Zealand for quite a while now, for a few years. So we're like, surely everything will be fine. So yeah, it was just quite crazy that it was all happening while we were there.
So you chose to go on a different outing. Did you consider going to the volcano at any point?
Oh, yeah, 100% we did, because a lot of time we get given a list of options before we actually go on the cruise. So months ahead, people look at the different options that are provided. So at the time we saw, like, White Island Volcano Walk, and we said, wow, that would be amazing. The only things that kind of threw us off going on it was the price of it. I think it was like $554 for an adult. And then also it was quite a strenuous activity. So I have asthma. So them saying that we had to wear the gas mask, it was kind of like, oh, am I going to be okay? Or is that a bit too risky with my lungs being the way they are? So at the moment, I'm super glad, because I know for a fact I wouldn't have been able to deal with that sulfate and everything that they were inhaling.
Do you recall when you looked at the options for the different tours, when it came to White Island, whether there was any information about it being an active volcano?
Yeah, so pretty much the first sentence said that it was an active volcano, but it was one of those things where it just kept going on saying about everything that you got to do on the island. So I guess as a tourist, you kind of look at it and think, oh, well, they wouldn't have made the island available to anyone at all if it was dangerous to anyone. They didn't say anything that it was going to erupt or there was chances of it erupting. It just said, look, it was an old volcano. It's been active for many years, but nothing else. So that's why, as a tourist, you just think, oh, it's something fun and crazy, and who would ever do something like this? So, of course, people are going to be super excited to do an adventure like that. So, yeah, no chance at all that we ever thought to have a look and see whether or not it was going to erupt or the levels. We had no idea that information was actually available either.
So that was through actually the cruise company, was it, that you considered all your different options of tours? That was through the cruise company?
Yeah, so with the cruise, apparently they had third-party companies from New Zealand, I guess, that are linked with Royal Caribbean that work together. And at the time, I thought that was the only kind of tours you could do. It wasn't until I had spoken with other passengers and they said, oh, no, you can actually do tours throughout New Zealand that isn't with Royal Caribbean and the people that are sponsored with them. So that was something new information for us, because that's not really specified, I guess, when you book the trip. So, we only knew about what was actually included with Royal Caribbean.
So how much information did the cruise company give you after the volcano erupted? Were you given regular updates? How do you feel about the information you were given?
Well, honestly, at the time, I thought we were getting enough information, but it wasn't until I had a lot of media people contacting me and saying, "Hey, have you heard about this? How do you feel about this?" And it was quite shocking because I actually hadn't heard any of that information yet from our captain or from any announcements. So all we were really told was that the captain would give us information once the government and police officials had provided him information. So, I guess a lot of us weren't sure whether if the captain was being delayed in being provided information or if it was just the media getting everything way quicker. But, yeah, we definitely weren't being kept on the same level as we thought we would have been.
And in the days after the eruption, how did the rest of the cruise go?
It was hard. A lot of people ask me now and they said, "Oh, did you enjoy the rest of the trip?" And it's just one of those things where it's just like, how can I enjoy the rest of the trip knowing that fellow people that I may have met are not going back home or enjoying the trip or anything like that. So, sorry, I'm getting emotional now. It's quite hard. A lot of people were very upset. And it was one of those things that's like, yes, we can try and continue to have a good time, but we all knew in the back of our stomachs, we're like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to continue doing this all, knowing that people were still missing or people were still in hospital.
Did you just want the trip to be over?
100%. 100%. I just wanted to be at home with my friends and family. It was quite tough. So I know a lot of people were quite strong and they could kind of push it aside. But for a lot of us, it was quite hard to continue the trip and trying to put a smile on our face. Yeah.
Has the cruise company offered you any support?
They did offer support. They advised on the trip that they had counsellors available if anyone needed it. I heard of a couple of people going ahead and using the services, but I feel like a lot of people don't feel comfortable, I guess, talking straight away. It was quite difficult, I guess, for a lot of different people. We would have thought that maybe they would give us free internet to actually contact our friends and family to let them know we were safe, but we weren't really offered anything like that. And then really the last day we received pamphlets, which were Australian government that had written them up and saying that if they did need any support, Australians would have that support when they got back home with going to their GP and there's mental health services.
Do you actually feel, Vanessa, that it's fully hit you yet, this?
Oh, 100%. It 100% hit me pretty much straight away. I'm quite an emotional person, so if I hear about anyone else that has suffering, especially knowing that there was young children, people my age, it affects you definitely. I don't know if that's just me, but it definitely has hit me quite hard.
So is that the end of your involvement with the cruise company, or did they say that they would follow up with you after you left the cruise? Or obviously at various points the cruise changed, you were stuck in Port and Tauranga. Have they offered any compensation or given you any assurances they will follow up with you?
We haven't really been told if we'd get a follow-up at all. We were just told that we'd get a survey by email.
Excuse me, sorry, Vanessa, did you say a survey?
Yeah, a survey, yes, correct. I'm pretty much on how the trip went. So that was it. We weren't really told if they were going to follow up in regards to what ended up happening. Hopefully they do. I think a lot of us would want to know what had happened and why it all happened. But yeah, no, unfortunately, no, I don't know if we will know anymore. In regards to compensation, they did offer us 1 day refund for being in Tauranga for the extra day, but that was about it. So that was, I think, like $89 US being refunded, and then refunding the tours that we missed in Wellington.
And that's Vanessa Lugo, who was a passenger on Ovation of the Seas, which arrived back in Sydney today.